This is going to be a video for lesson, or rather skill 5 from the Algebra 1 Unit 1. So just to kind of get some quick background and review before we get into the actual questions, this lesson deals with rounding, and it deals with some ideas about what we call place value in math. And so place value in math deals with the idea that when we write a number, like 352.87, those digits, the individual numbers here, 3, 5, 2, 8, and 7, each have their own place value depending on where they are in relationship to the decimal point. So we know that the first number in front of the decimal is what we call the ones. And so once we get to 9 on the ones, we move over to the tens. And so then we have 110. And then as we get 9 tens, we have to move up again and we get hundreds. And so this tells me that I have 3 hundreds, 5 tens, 2 ones. And then everything to the other side, everything that comes after the decimal point, is going to be in what we call decimals. So this is a tenth. In other words, 8 parts of a 1 out of 10. So if you cut a 1 up into 10 parts, this has 8 of those parts. And then if you cut the tenths up into another part, they would be hundredths. So a 7 is 7 parts of a tenth. And so this idea of place value is really important here, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing rounding. So I'm going to rewrite this number, and we're going to move on to this other, 352.87. So we had 352.87. And so we need to talk about how we do rounding. So rounding is can be done depending on which place value you're interested in. So if I wanted to round this to the ones, then I'd actually start by looking here, because I want to know, is this 8 almost making another 1? And so what we determine in mathematics is that from 1 to 4, you go down, and from 5 up, you go up. In other words, because this 8 is in this upper section, this is going to become 353 if I round it to the ones place. This 8 means we move this up to a 3 because it's almost made a complete another 1. That's if I wanted to round to the ones place. Remember, the ones place is where this 2 is located. Okay, so that's if I wanted to round to there. Let me erase this 8. Now, what if I wanted to round to the tens? Well, if I wanted to round to the tens, I'd go and look at the 2. Since the 2 is in this lower section, we're going to actually go down. In other words, this 5 is going to stay. This 2 is going to go away, and it's going to be 350. Now, lastly, what if I wanted to round to the hundreds? If I want to round to the hundreds, then again, I'm going to look at the number that came before. Let me erase this. I'm going to look at this 5. And because the 5 is in this group, that means it's going to move up. So it's going to be 400. You notice there's nothing else there, because when I round, I'm only going to go to that part, tens, hundreds. I only went to the tens. I don't have any value below tens. When I round to the hundreds, I don't have any value below hundreds. So when it says to round to tens, you should have numbers for everything above 10 and then nothing in the ones place or below. If you round to the hundreds, have something in the hundreds place, but nothing below. So let's look at some of the examples that they're wanting us to do. So they want us to do some math with numbers that are being added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided together. and they want us to do what they call estimate. So let me scroll down here. And like, let's say, for example, they said to estimate, write that word down, estimate, 353 minus 127, and to round it or to estimate it to the nearest tens place. So this is what your problem is going to look like. So if I'm going to do this, I'm going to round both numbers to the tens place. So I'm going to look at 353, and I'm going to see that because this is the tens place and this is a 3, it's going to go down. So it's going to be 350 minus, and I go here, and this is the tens place, the 2, and I'm going to look at the 7, and the 7 tells me to go up. Remember, 1, 2, 3, and 4 go down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 go up. So we're going to do up because we have a 7, which is going to go up to 130. Now I'm going to subtract these, and the answer I get is going to be 220. And that is the estimate of the answer. Again, I'm estimating based on the tens, and so my answer should only have tens. So this is what you're doing. So you're just estimating. So you round first, and then you go through and you actually find the answer to the problem.